All right, what's going on, everybody? It is November of 2020 as I'm recording this, and that means a few things. Winter is fast approaching, Thanksgiving is just around the corner. But this November in particular has a special sentimental place for me personally, and not in a good way, because it is the 15-year passing of the late, great Eddie Guerrero. And a lot has been said about Eddie over the month so far. A lot of tributes, some good documentaries and podcasts. But I just wanted to come on today. I just woke up. This video's on a whim, per usual. I wanted to share my personal thoughts about Eddie Guerrero and just my kind of memories of his passing and where I was and how that felt. And I don't know. I kind of want to make this selfishly for me because I just want this time capsule to look back on and just kind of get my thoughts documented so that I can, just look back on them and remember what I was going through while I still remember it. I even right now I can't believe it's already been 15 years since the passing of Eddie. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Time is going by really fast. Seems like it goes by faster every year, but that's an entirely different video. Um, Anyways, let's talk about Eddie Guerrero during the year 2005. Some of his best work he was doing was in the year 2005. I think personally, he had just come off of that great heel feud with Rey Mysterio, where they were fighting over Dominic and custody of Dominic, and Eddie came out and said he was Dominic's real father, and that whole feud was it's just funny, right? Because you see Dominic now on TV and he's huge and compared to his dad, obviously, and we got to see him kind of grow up before our very eyes, and it's just cool to see things come full circle like that. But yeah, the feud was great. The whole Dominic custody on the pole, or the ladder match for Dominic's custody. Yeah, there was a lot of funny stuff going on there. But I think Eddie was doing some of his best work as a heel during that feud with Ray. Some guys just have such great chemistry together, and obviously Ray and Eddie have had that chemistry throughout their entire careers, even dating back to WCW. I was just watching their Halloween Havoc '97 match a couple days ago, just because I was in the mood to watch some old Eddie Guerrero stuff. I just miss him so much. But anyways, after that feud, after the conclusion of his Rey Mysterio feud, he was starting to get back into the main event picture with Dave Batista, and he was starting to come back around. They were kind of tiptoeing around him being a face again, and there was a lot of good comedy sketches between him and Batista. Eddie is such a great character on TV, and he's very, you can do a lot of cool stuff with him, and he can do it all because he's a phenomenal actor. As good as he is inside the ring, I think he's equally as good outside the ring. Like his promos and his backstage segments were second to none. So it's just a shame that, obviously it's a shame whenever anyone's life is cut short, but I feel like Eddie was really hitting the pinnacle of what he was capable of in WWE. I know he had won the Undisputed title, and he was at the top of the SmackDown roster, but I really think we were about to see some really legendary stuff from Eddie Guerrero. Not that we hadn't already seen a bunch of it, but you know what I mean. I feel like he was really we missed out. Obviously we missed out. We lost Eddie, and we lost everything that came with that. But we did get a lot from Eddie, and I think it's important that we appreciate what we did get from him. The whole lie, cheat, steal gimmick in and of itself, I mean, it was just awesome. When the brand split and Eddie came back after his departure, and he went to SmackDown and he formed Los Guerreros with Chavo, and how over that tag team was. Los Guerreros was maybe my favorite tag team of all time. I mean, they were incredible. The matches they had with Team Angle, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, and they did good stuff. I think with a lot of tag team. I think the Basham brothers. You think about that old, the old school SmackDown. But yeah, I really loved Los Guerreros, and then when Chavo went single, when Eddie went single, he kind of kept that lie, cheat, steal gimmick, and it really made him. It really pushed him into main event status, and once he got the ball, he ran with it. He never looked back. But anyways, I'm going on an Eddie Guerrero tangent, which I guess is kind of the point of the video, but I wanted to just kind of talk about the moment that I heard he passed. Now, 2005, I was living in Chicago, kind of a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. The school I went to, Caucasians, white people, we were in the minority there, for sure, the great minority. Which, is fine. I had a lot of Hispanic friends, and we were very close, and we all loved wrestling. We were crazy about wrestling. And we were crazy about Eddie Guerrero. I had a friend named Jamie, and he used to quote Eddie Guerrero all the time, because this was, of course, during the Ray and Eddie feud that I mentioned earlier. We used to just say little quotes to each other, because we were so crazy about wrestling. We remembered everything these guys said to each other. Excuse me for shaking the camera so much. He'd come up to me all the time and just say things in the hallway like, "Do you think this makes me happy?" After Eddie would beat up Ray, he'd say oh my god, good stuff. I miss those kids. But, needless to say, Eddie Guerrero was a superhero to us, Especially those other Hispanic kids that I went to school with, we all looked up to Eddie Guerrero. And we grew up with him, really. That's the thing about WWE professional wrestlers, you can look at characters from other TV shows that you grew up watching for a long time, right? Just for example, we can use Jerry Seinfeld. If you grew up in the 90s, you could be like, I grew up watching Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld was a big part of my childhood, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. Of course he was. If you grew up in the 90s, of course you grew up watching Jerry Seinfeld. But when you grow up watching WWE, you see these superstars maybe twice, maybe even 3 times a week, every single week, for years. There's no off season. There's no season finales. For WWE, I mean, this thing is going on year-round. So when you say you grew up watching somebody in WWE, they really were a part of your life. You think about that, like a couple times a week, every week. That's a large chunk of your life to grow up with somebody, and we definitely grew up with Eddie Guerrero. Definitely through WCW, WWE, the Radical days. All the way up to the WWE Championship. Eddie Guerrero was a part of all of our lives. So when he left, man, it was a big void. But anyways, I want to mention when I found out that Eddie Guerrero had passed. So a SmackDown airs, right? Of him versus Mr. Kennedy, I believe it was. And that was the last match that Eddie Guerrero ever had on WWE television. And obviously SmackDown was taped at the time. So if I remember correctly, SmackDown had just aired, and the following day at school is when we found out that Eddie had passed. And I remember there were a lot of rumblings when I got to school that day. I didn't know. I did not know about this. This was, 2005. I obviously had a computer in my home, but I wasn't... I didn't have a computer in my pocket, like a smartphone. So I wasn't like on the internet at all times like I am now. But I remember getting to school that day, and there was a weird rumbling. Everybody was talking about Eddie Guerrero, and that something had happened to him. And kids, I mean, people were talking about, Eddie Guerrero, Ken Kennedy and Eddie Guerrero had a match, and Eddie Guerrero died, and people were talking about Eddie Guerrero got killed, and he died in that match, and you know how kids are. So I just kind of disregarded all of it. I'm like, oh, okay, kids are being stupid. But the rumblings didn't stop. Now you got to remember, this is a predominantly Hispanic school I went to in the city of Chicago, and everybody was crazy about wrestling. So this was the talk of the school. I'm not kidding when I say that. So I get into my first period class, and it was science. And I remember the teacher, everyone sat down, and he addressed it. He got up in front of the class, and he's like, now I know there's a lot of rumblings going on. A lot of people are talking. Eddie Guerrero, WWE superstar, unfortunately passed away last night. Or today, this morning. I forgot what he said exactly. But he said Eddie Guerrero had passed away. And he said he didn't die from a match. he didn't die from anything like that. Right now, they just know that Eddie Guerrero is no longer with us, and it's just incredible that our teacher addressed that. It just speaks to what Eddie Guerrero meant for these kids and for me and for just all of us as a a wrestling community as a whole. It was such a big loss. But I remember the air just being sucked out of the room, and that's when I knew it was real. And it hit me heavy because I think we had lost wrestlers before to that point, but Eddie Guerrero was the first one that I remember really being shooken up about. That hit me hard. The rest of that day, I don't really remember much about it, but I remember just being in disbelief that this could happen. And sure enough, Raw rolls around and they do a tribute show for Eddie Guerrero, and I just couldn't believe it was real. You think back to all the little tribute videos they had, like wrestlers one-on-one express what Eddie Guerrero meant to them, and it was just sad, man. But you see all the sadness on these superstars' faces when they're talking about Eddie Guerrero, and you just realize the huge impact he made on all of their lives, not only inside the ring, but outside the ring as well. It just speaks volumes to the kind of man that Eddie Guerrero was. And, he's very missed, and his legacy lives on. You look at all the superstars today that he's influenced, Sasha Banks cites Eddie Guerrero as her biggest influence for even getting into the industry at all. So, Eddie Guerrero's spirit does live on, and it's through the superstars today, and it always will. And because we have the WWE Network, his legacy and spirit will never die, and just what he contributed to the business is second to none. I miss Eddie Guerrero dearly, and we lost him too soon. And like I mentioned earlier, you can only imagine the great stuff he would have gone on to do. He had a second championship run in him at some point down the line. You think of the mentor he could have been for young superstars. Just fun stuff. And who knows, maybe even to this day he would still be like an on-air personality. Eddie Guerrero, like I said, he was not only a phenomenal wrestler, he was a phenomenal promo, a backstage personality. He could have done anything. You could have placed him in anywhere, and the kind of in-ring psychology he had too. I mean, he could have been an agent. He could have been booking shows, So yeah, but it's important to remember what we did get out of Eddie Guerrero. Some of the best moments, promos, feuds. I remember, when he first returned in 2002, and he came out on stage and cut that promo on The Rock about his little girls and having a poster of The Rock hanging up, and he ripped it up, and he was a great heel. The stuff he did with China when he was in the Radicals, that was awesome. Latino Heat. I could go on and on about the great Eddie Guerrero moments, but I don't know. I wanted to make this video, like I said, to kind of make a little time capsule, if you will, because I like remembering moments of time, whether happy or sad. And this was definitely a sad moment in my history as a wrestling fan, as I'm sure it is in all of yours as well. I just wanted to get this out there so that it's out there, and I can look back on this video and remember Eddie Guerrero and the good times that he brought to us, that he brought to all of us. So anyways, I'm going to go get ready for the day. I just wanted to make this video. 15 years since Eddie Guerrero has passed. I can't believe it. Rest in peace, Eddie.